Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whenever the fuck you're watching this. This is episode 2 of Backyard Buckets. With me tonight, we're flying duo tonight. No Raul, but Andy. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Short week here. We're just on Friday.
It is.
Getting right back to it. Real quick, just off the top, I just wanted to go with tonight we had everything's already running. Timbs are up 103-91 on the Cavs. Magic are up 105-87 on the Pacers. You got the Raptors up 81-58 on the Nets. The Heat are beating the Bulls, killing them 63-48. Grizzlies beating the Spurs 61-54. Bucks beating the Hornets 62-44. That one's ugly. And the Kings, the bozos of the century, winning 51-48 over the Thunder.
Maybe no, they knew what they were doing? No, just kidding.
No, not a chance. It's the Thunder.
Yeah, no late games tonight. That's surprising. Usually some of those mountain time games will get the late slot, but looks like they didn't. Anyway, good to be back. Yes, as you just mentioned there, Mode, it is a short week. We kicked off on Friday, got a little bit of an all-star break primer, talked about some favorites going ahead, who won and lost at the trade deadline, and talked about things, the outlook, right? So now we have a couple of games since the All-Star break, and let's start with kind of one of the big things we talked about on Friday, right? One of the big trades. I think we all sort of agreed that in one way or another, it was a win for both teams, right? Brooklyn not only got rid of a guy, but they got a guy back that could potentially give them a great defender on the wing, right? If he's back in shape and playing as he should. Seth Curry, another shooter, and they got a couple draft picks. But James Harden, right, got out of a bad situation, or what he perceived as a bad situation, right? T-Mac kind of led into him. And I agree with T-Mac, right? He's kind of a piece of shit. But he got out of a situation he didn't want to be in, and he's down in Philly. And I think after 2 games, it does look like there's some chemistry, and we talked about it with the high pick and roll that he can run with Embiid. It looks like that's working because he had a triple-double last night. He had 26, 12, and 8, I believe, in his debut, and Embiid has had 30, mid-30s games back-to-back since Harden joined the team. So, Andy, what are your thoughts on this? Is this them getting payoff on the trade going to get him? Is this working out as you expected it to, or better?
Yeah, I mean, they've played the Timberwolves on Friday in his debut. Currently sitting the 7th spot in the West. They played the Knicks, who aren't very good, Sunday night. So, like you were saying, yeah, he had 27, 12 assists and 8 rebounds in his debut, and then 29, 16, and 10 for the triple-double. So, I mean, he's averaging 28, 14, and 9 in 2 games. And Embiid has looked good. The chemistry seems to be there. Yeah, I mean, I think this is what we expected. We have to see them play some better teams, clearly. I mean, that's going to happen, obviously. They'll need it to happen, I think, in the last, dozen and a half games or so to kind of get ready for that playoff push. The funniest thing, though, was, did you see where Danny Green didn't want to give Harden the ball on the inbound? I didn't watch the game. I didn't understand what that was about. But like, it almost reminded me of the Harden like eye roll meme.
Yeah.
Like, because he was clearly like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
I don't get it. I didn't understand. If somebody, can enlighten us, that would be great. But yeah, I think we're working out in Philly, as planned. Harden did this before. When Harden was traded originally to the Rockets from the Thunder, and we kind of weren't 100% sure what he was going to do not coming off the bench in that 6-role position playing with KD and Westbrook. And he went into Houston and just lit it the fuck up. Yeah, set the place on fire. So, new life, Hopefully he likes this situation. He's kind of pulling a little bit of a Jimmy Butler right now from a couple years ago where, more dramatic than Butler did. But Butler was like on the Bulls, the Wolves, the Sixers, and then the Heat in a matter of like 2 seasons, it seemed like. So,
yeah, he's bouncing around a little bit, but I this is a better start than I thought there would be. I thought there would be some bumps in the road, but it's pretty clear that the two talents that are there, right? Embiid and Harden that are dominating kind of, obviously they're going to dominate people's attention, but they're going to dominate the ball as well. It seems that there's just a natural fit. And we talked about it on Friday that it could potentially be one of those natural fits, like you mentioned, Clint Capella. But Embiid brings a bit more savvy when it comes to being able to handle the ball as well, but also really knowing how to position himself as a scorer, whereas Capella is more of a guy that gets a lot of like dunks right off of that pick and roll. Embiid, I think, brings that added danger of he doesn't have to go to the hoop off that pick and roll. He can stop, pop from the elbow. He can even, on a under, so they go under the screen or under the pick. He can pop out to the 3-point line and knock down some threes. He hasn't shot the ball super well in those 2 games, but it's been clear that Harden's been able to get him the ball in position to succeed on top of getting his. He's had, 26 and 29, I believe, were his 2-point totals, and then he's had, 8 assists or 12 assists and 16 assists in back-to-back games. So it appears that Harden's being put in a position where he's going to be able to really dominate the ball. And maybe that was a little bit of what he didn't like in Brooklyn. KD is a guy that is on the ball a lot, and Kyrie is a guy that's on the ball a lot. And maybe that's just something that was another kind of factor that aided him a little bit in Brooklyn. But I have to say that after 2 games, I'm surprised how well it's working in this very small sample size, right? We have to understand it is a small sample size.
Right. Well, back in, the OKC days when he was the 6th man, a lot of casual fans were really perturbed with the whole, why would you let Harden go somewhere else thing? And the choice ultimately was Serge Ibaka over Harden at that point. And, I think what most people who are more than casual fans understood was that Ibaka brings a lot more to the table with KD and Westbrook than Harden did, because it's the same guy, really. Very, very similar player in terms of usage. So I think the same can be said, and I know the same can be said about KD now and Kyrie Irving, and we talked about this on Friday. And Harden's never played with a big like Joel Embiid. Most people haven't.
There's only very few of them.
There's really nobody like Embiid that I can think of. But like there's, especially in today's game. Clint Capella is a very good center, but the guy's like 6'9", and he's a shot blocker and a alley-oop or dunker. He's not, Embiid can create for himself, and it works. And they still have Tobias Harris too. So there's good things. Tyrese Maxey's playing good basketball. We're going to talk about him a little later. They've got some pieces. So even though they gave up a lot of things, and they're looking at the newly released DeAndre Jordan, I hear too.
Yeah, I think that'd be a nice little piece for them too. Guy that can come off the bench, give you a little energy, but also a shot blocker and enforcer that you can pair him with Embiid too, and let Embiid work on the perimeter and not have to worry about getting back to help on defense. You can kind of hide DeAndre Jordan down by the hoop and let him kind of do what he does. And he's a guy that rebounds, right?
Right.
You need those guys especially when you've got the second team in, and you don't have your James Hardens and everybody else shooting. You've got a guy that can rebound and get you dirty possessions, right? You get second possessions that you wouldn't normally get. So I think that'd be a pretty good move for them. just the skill set that he brings to the table for sure.
Well, we've seen, and Philly's not afraid to do these types of things either. We've seen them. They did it with Horford, bringing him in with Embiid, and everybody was like, "What are they doing?" And then they did it again with Drummond. So now, why not? Why not DJ?
Yeah, for sure. So, last question to kind of close out the topic with Harden. How sustainable do you think this early success is? I think that's really kind of the question going forward, right? Is this fool's gold? Is this Harden showing off in his first couple of games? Or is this really what seems like a good fit?
Right. I mean, I think James Harden's a very talented player, obviously, despite what T-Mac says about him, and I have, the utmost admiration for T-Mac. He's my favorite player ever. But, I think we tend to look at the NBA through whatever magnifying glass we grew up with. And so people hate the way players dictate what they do these days. But that's the way it is. Yep. And since it's been that way for probably a decade at this point, players are going to make sure, especially players who know they have, the ball in their court because they're top 10, top 15 players in the world, they're going to do whatever they can to be in the right situation. So, I think Harden, thought the right situation was Brooklyn, and then that didn't work out. And, you can call him whatever you want, whether you agree with it or not. This was him getting himself into what he believes is the right position. And, again, I think Jimmy Butler did the same thing in a different way. Jimmy Butler used free agency to do these things. However, he jumped around and found his fit. So hopefully Harden does that. And I think it's going to work. Again, they've played a couple of not so stellar teams, but people are already saying, are Harden and Embiid the best duo in the NBA? And it's hard to argue that. They've got to be in that discussion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I say piece of shit mostly because, I don't like his tactics, right? But you're right. Like whatever lens we look at it through, it's going to taint how we see it.
Right. I don't like him either, but I mean, it is what it is.
Right. And he has the power and he has the ability and the power, that's the main thing, right? The players in the NBA have an immense amount of power. We're watching MLB right now. They can't get on the field because the players are being locked out by owners. The owners don't give a shit if they miss games, right? That's as little power as you can possibly have. And now and then you get the complete opposite in the NBA, and we see guys have different tactics. You mentioned Butler. You mentioned guys just demanding trades. You mentioned, and we've talked about LeBron going from team to team and making his demands when he gets to a team, right? So players in the NBA have this power, and think of him what you will, but he's just making what he thinks is the best of his situation.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He doesn't care what you think. No. Like at the end of the day, and again, I don't agree with it, but people who don't, your favorite player, if they had the power to do this in their era, most of them probably would have.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe not all. I mean, there's different breeds. I mean, I think we even have guys today like a Damian Lillard, who's like, no, I want to, finish what I started. You get guys like that, but I mean, for every one of them, there's 10 that would have done it this way if they could have in the early 2000s or the 90s or the 80s or the 70s. Those same guys would have also loved to make $40 million a year.
You ain't kidding. I'd like to make a tenth of that. Anyway.
A tenth? Shit, I'll take less than that. But
yeah, right.
I'm undercutting you. The bidding starts here. I mean, we'll go all day.
For sure. All right. Let's switch gears a little bit. So we've got a list. We're going to do something called this guy or that guy. And to prime it a little bit, we're going to talk about two players, and we're going to make an argument for the person we would rather build a team around, right? Kind of a franchise cornerstone. So we're going to get to that, but we've got a little intro into this. guy or that guy?
Full disclosure, I'm seeing that for the first time too, people. Gary made that. I like it.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to our first list. Man, I have to say, you put this together, right? And going down this list, man, like you picked the right guys to match up.
I'm going to tell you right now, before we start, there was a couple of them I didn't even want to do because I don't want to
make a decision.
Yeah, it's tough. But
I was splitting hairs on probably 6 out of these 8.
I tried to make them really similar in years, age, and very similar in the position or style they play. I mean,
you did well, friend. You did well.
I appreciate it. Some of them are obviously some of these are already ones that I've seen floating around other places, so. No, don't. I'm not trying to say that I'm the first person to talk about these with me.
For sure. All right, let's get started here. We've got Cole Anthony and Tyrese Maxey. I'm going to pass it your way first.
We're starting, kind of, it's going to climb from here, folks. Mm-hmm. But what a lot of you, I don't know how much everybody really pays attention to the NBA who watches this show. We appreciate you either way. These guys, some of you might be like, who? Cole Anthony was in the dunk contest the other night. Thanks, Calvin. I appreciate you, buddy. So Cole Anthony, the Orlando Magic, Tyrese Maxey, who's obviously on the Sixers. You're talking a couple guys. I mean, Cole Anthony's getting 18, 6, and 6. I rounded up. Maxey 17, 4, and 5. We have some players here. So, a couple of young point guards, really good talents. I have to go Cole Anthony. I'm a Magic guy. I've watched a lot more of Cole Anthony than I've seen of Tyrese Maxey. I was a little surprised when I saw what Tyrese Maxey was actually getting.
Me too.
Per game. I saw it a couple weeks ago. I was like, shit, This guy's tearing it up. And I knew he was good coming into the league. But, to be on a team that's had star power, and obviously he got a big opportunity this year with the Ben Simmons stuff. But, hell of a good player, both good players. And this one was tough for me too. I'm going to go with Cole Anthony. I think Cole Anthony's a bit better of a shooter. He's a very good rebounder for 6'3", runs the floor really well. I think in this era of space and pace, he's the option for me. Maxey's a terrific defender too, but Cole Anthony for me.
Yeah, we're going to agree on this one. And I think what separates it a little bit for me is I like how Cole Anthony can create with the ball in his hands a little more than what Tyrese Maxey can do. He's a bit more of a complimentary guy who moves off the ball and gets open looks and cuts to the basket. Great defender. I think he's got the leg up in that. And in this league, that has value. And it made it tough in terms of the decision because of the value he brings on the defensive side of the ball. But you mentioned the rebounding. He's not a tall guy for his position. 6'3", he's kind of mediocre, right? Average height for, where he's running. In being able to rebound 6 times a game is showing me that he's willing to do the dirty work. So I'm with you, Cole Anthony, between these two, but it's not by much.
In Basketball Reference has him at 6'2", actually. I was just looking. So
you gave him an extra inch. Yes. That's a leg up even more.
Yeah.
All right. Another good matchup here because I don't think a lot of people would have known Desmond Bane if without the break, right? He's had a huge breakout this year. Entering this season, I don't think a lot of people outside of maybe hardcore basketball fans may have understood who Desmond Bane is and what he can do on the basketball floor. He's really made a name for himself, much more so this year, much more publicly known. And we're going to match him up against the guy who's got pedigree, a guy who comes out of Duke, a guy who was the 3rd overall pick, played alongside Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett. So I'm gonna start here on this one, and I'm a guy who during the draft process, during the entire lead up to that draft, said RJ Barrett is going to have a better career than Zion Williamson. Right? I touted it. I was singing his praises as much as anybody would listen. But I'm going to flip the script a little bit on this because I really, really, really like Desmond Bane as a cornerstone 3-and-D guy. He's a guy that can really make a difference on especially on a modern era basketball team. The guy shoots the lights out of the building and he will fucking lock you down basically 4 positions. He can guard 3. He'll lock you the fuck down. So I'm going Desmond Bane, and I'm going to eat a little bit of kind of what I was praising about RJ Barrett coming out of the draft. What do you think?
I totally agree with you. Barrett's numbers currently slightly better from the points, rebounds, assists margin. He's getting more like 19-6-3, while Bane's more like 18-4-3. However, the 3-and-D thing, you nailed on the head. The guy's making about 3 threes a game, 2.8. Great defender. He's got a nice build to him, 6'5", like 220. I think RJ Barrett's, kind of falls a little bit into like the Andrew Wiggins type fad. Like we expect this guy to maybe come out and be a superstar, give him the ball anywhere, let him go to work. As where Desmond Bane is going to fit in perfectly with a superstar in John Morant, and just do all the little luckily for him, luckily for us basketball fans, you're actually getting to see this guy play because the Grizzlies have John Morant. Therefore, there's a bit of a spotlight. There's some television time. 2 years ago, we wouldn't have seen Desmond Bane. There's other guys, Dylan Brooks. There's guys like that on this team who are very good players that we don't know a ton about because we didn't get to see them play until probably mid-season last year because of the John Morant show. So it's really a nice thing. But if you haven't and you get a chance to watch the Grizzlies play basketball, because their youth movement is fantastic. And we did talk about that a little bit Friday too.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to another great matchup here. A couple of real heavy-hitting scorers, right? A couple of guys that bring that to the table, and that's really their calling card, right? Anthony Edwards, Ant-Man, going up against Tyler Hero, coming out of Kentucky. His pedigree was he's a shooter. He's going to be able to score the ball, and we saw that in the bubble. He and Duncan Robinson got hot, carried them to the finals. Didn't carry them necessarily. Jimmy Butler was still the best player on the team, but their ability to shoot the lights out of the gym really was a big factor in getting to the finals. But Anthony Edwards has made good on what we expected from him coming out of college. Really good scorer, guy that can really distribute the ball as well. Who you got here with Ant-Man versus Mr. Hero?
Man, this one was so tough for me because these two, I think I'd have to look back through this, but I feel like in my memory, these two more so than the rest of the field are the least alike, but play a similar, the 2-3 position. Yep. Tyler Hero is a guy who, coming out of the bubble, we were really wowed by him as a rookie. And then last year, he kind of got shit on a lot, I think, publicly, even though he averaged like 15 points a game. And, playing with Bam and playing with Jimmy, like, that's not bad. This guy's averaging 20 points a game.
Yeah.
20 points a game. And they added Kyle Lowry. So, I can't say enough about him. However, I think Anthony Edwards is that dude. He's a really good athletic defender who can score from 3 levels. I feel like he does everything right. He's always downhill. For me, I think about if I put Tyler Hero, because Tyler Hero is clearly on the better team. If I put Tyler Hero on the Timberwolves, how good would they be? What would his impact be? And I don't think it would be as much. Not to say anything bad about Hero. I think he's a great player. I think he would probably average like 23 or 24 points a game on that team, which would be a higher clip than Anthony Edwards, because I think he's getting 21.
One, I believe.
But I don't think the impact would be the same.
Yeah, I'm with you, and that was a big factor that I tried to take in when looking at this. Is like if you pick these two guys up, right, and you plug them in on other teams, how many teams is Anthony Edwards going to make better versus Tyler Hero, right? And the more I thought about it, as much as I love what Anthony Edwards can do, because I think he's a guy that by himself is a better basketball player, is probably a better piece to build from the ground up. But so I say if I'm building with nothing around him, that's probably the guy I'm going to build my foundation around, right? But I think that Tyler Hero affords me more flexibility as a franchise, knowing that I've got a guy on the wing that I can just he can spot up, but he can also create his own shot. He's a bit better in terms of a pure shooter than Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards can score at all three levels, but Hero brings a little bit more of that pure shooting ability.
I would say quite a bit more.
Yeah,
honestly, I mean, to your point.
Yeah, so that to me, because I have the potential, if I'm building a team, to put guys that can put him in position to succeed, right? I can get a guy that can handle the ball. I'm gonna go with Hero if I'm looking at this from kind of that piecing a franchise together perspective. If I've got one guy to just grab and say this is my guy, then maybe I do go with Anthony Edwards. But looking at it from a building block kind of perspective, I'm gonna slightly, and this one was really splitting hairs, I'm gonna go with Hero on this, only because of what he brings from a shooting perspective in the modern NBA.
You know what Raul would have just said during that?
Yeah, he would have called me Belgian.
For sure. I was almost getting it. So actually, it's the first one we disagree on. Listen, I kind of like the way you went with that, because I probably am never looking at it that way. So I agree with you. Actually, that Hero is going to fit in, especially in today's NBA.
Yeah,
probably 22 out of 30 teams better.
Right.
But yeah, no, I like the angle. You fucking think you're slick.
Had to sneak one in there. Had to get one over.
That's fucking illegal.
All right, next matchup here. We've got the reigning Rookie of the Year, LaMelo Ball. And we've got sneaky fucking stud Darius Garland, because he's another guy like Bane. I don't think NBA fans, if you ask them about Darius Garland, would be able, like casual NBA fans, would be able to talk to you about what he brings to that team, right? He's a big focal, kind of the pivot point of the future of that franchise, really. And they've got a lot of young guys there. They've got a real good young core, but Darius Garland is kind of the focal point of where that team's going to go in the next 5 years. But you've got the reigning Rookie of the Year, right? So I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to say I'm going to go with LaMelo Ball. And I say that because he's a guy that I don't need a lot of pieces around him for him to make my team better. And I'm going to use Charlotte as my example and my kind of evidence here, because they've struggled for a long time to put a franchise together. Mike's struggled for a long time trying to piece together a winning franchise there that can be sustainable. Adding LaMelo Ball, and I hate to admit this because I hate his fucking father to death, but that dude has made good on every bit of the promise that Big Daddy said LaMelo. He said LaMelo was the best ball player, right? And he's proving that. He can shoot. It's a weird shot, but he makes it. He's a willing distributor. He's actually he's not a great defender, but a willing defender. And he rebounds well for the point guard position. So I'm taking LaMelo because I can build around what he brings to the table, because he has a very multifaceted game, and I can put pieces around that.
Yeah, and to comment on LeVar a bit, here's the big thing. Is you have a guy who's made his mark with saying outlandish things,
just being brash.
And listen, I'm a Lonzo Ball backer. I have been. I think that he's a good player. Yeah, I don't think he's lived up to what I thought he could be, because I kind of thought he had flashes of like a young Jason Kidd, and I still think in some regards he does. So when he was at that height at UCLA, and LeVar was started to say, like a year into the NBA, that LaMelo was the best ball. I'm like, this guy just keeps saying shit to say shit.
Yeah, I thought the same fucking
thing.
And
you know what? I'm still not giving him credit. I still think he was just talking to talk, and then it came true. I mean,
probably.
I mean, even Like
you got lucky. Blind squirrel found a nut.
Right. The clock's right twice a day. So I
Right.
mean, it's like he however, I'm off track. I'm way off course. LaMelo is the answer here. I think this was a little unfair to Garland. I felt a little bad about this one, but I wanted to talk about him because you have the Cavs currently. We talked on Friday night. I think they're fool's gold, but they're 36-24, and they're currently sitting fourth in the Eastern Conference, and they're only 3.5 games out of first. So, like, if you don't live in Cleveland and you called anything close to that, you're saying that, I call you a liar. I don't believe you. Kevin Love's out there being the vet I never expected him to be.
The YMCA guy.
Mobley, who's phenomenal. I mean, you have a lot of little pieces, but Garland has really been who I thought Colin Sexsmith was going to be.
Yep, I agree with you 100%.
Their best player.
Yep,
and that's nothing against Colin Sexton. I still think he's a great player, but Darius Garland is just like coming to his own, and he's another one kind of like Cole Anthony, just a small kind of gets it done guard with a little more athleticism, a little more ball handling than you expect. So I do think the kid's great. This wasn't fair to him though. I do admit that because it's LaMelo Ball. I mean, when you're averaging like 27 and 8,
that's a second.
You win most debates.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now we get a little nitpicky here, right? Because this is two guys that are in a little bit different spots in their career, right? Zach LaVine is a seasoned vet, right? Been around for a while. We saw him as a guy. He was just a dunker, right, for a long time. He has become almost a complete player in Chicago, right? He's pretty damn close to being a complete guy.
Yeah.
Shooting, scoring, little bit of distribution, decent defender, versus a guy like Jaylen Brown who brings that two-way game to the table, but he's not nearly the star power of a Zach LaVine, right? And he gets overshadowed a little bit by somebody we're going to talk about here in a minute. But this is an interesting matchup because they play similar styles of ball, but Zach LaVine, we know him more, right? So I'm curious your thoughts on who you would build around here, Zach LaVine versus Jaylen Brown.
And this is really where we get to the part where I said I looked at it and I didn't want to do it because these are like two of my go-tos when I do like an NBA 2K franchise. I love both of these players. Like they're two of my favorite players. And I think they are the furthest apart in our comparison. Zach LaVine's in his 8th season. Yep. Brown's in his 6th. So it's kind of close still. Yeah. In what world is LaVine in his 8th season and Brown's in his 6th? Like I feel like
Jaylen. I had to look at that twice when I looked at it earlier. Like,
oh my God,
Jaylen Brown feels like a 3rd or 4th year guy,
and LaVine only feels like a 4th or 5th year guy. The older I get, the faster this goes. So, LaVine was drafted the same year as Andrew Wiggins. So that's like the Julius Randle, Aaron Gordon, those guys. I actually wanted the Magic to draft him with their 2nd pick, which was like 10 or 12 or something. Instead, they took Alfred Payton. Where's that guy now? But LaVine was coming out as like a 6'6" point guard. And, that didn't work. He obviously went to the 2 and could play a bit of the 3. But Jaylen Brown's phenomenal, great defender, almost as good as an offensive player, though, too, as LaVine, which I think gets slept on sometimes because Tatum's clearly the better offensive player. So he kind of gets a little swept under the rug, despite the fact that he's averaging like 24 points a game.
Yeah.
This one's really like splitting hairs for me, I think, but I think I go with Brown. And the reason I think I go with Brown is because he's 2 years younger and his stats are so damn close at 2 years younger. And he's a better defender, but it kind of hurts my feelings because I want to pick LaVine. So, but yeah, I'm going to not Belgium here and go with Jaylen Brown. So slightly.
We're in lockstep and we're in lockstep with that. It's very slight. The age did make a difference. When I first looked at this, I thought it was going to be a drastic difference in terms of the age, right? Like I mentioned, I thought like LaVine, I had to think about and like, oh yeah, he played. He's been on a couple of teams here, and he's been with Bulls for a couple of years. And Jaylen Brown, I thought honestly, like if somebody would have asked me what year he got drafted, I would have said, oh yeah, 2018, right? But that's not true. So I looked at him and I was like, damn, he's older than I thought he was, but he's still 2 years younger.
Well, he's only 1 year younger. He's 2 seasons younger
in the league. Yeah,
it's like 20. And the greatest part, real quick before we finish that, is we're talking guys that are 26 and 25. So
as if they're old fucking bucks. Yeah. But I'm with you. My biggest separating factor was defensively, because I think offensively we perceive Zach LaVine as the better offensive player, right? Because of, I think the dunking thing still is there in everybody's mind, and he's become a tremendous 3-point shooter as well, right? So I think the perception is that Zach LaVine is head and shoulders above Jaylen Brown offensively, which just isn't the case. But that defensive prowess of Jaylen Brown, he's a guy that can really lock down. So just very, very, as you put it, very slightly, I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown on this one if I'm building a franchise.
I really expected you to pick LaVine. I did. I mean,
tough, man, this was really tough. Really tough.
I'm glad you see the same thing, because at the end of the day, this is the one that took me the longest. Actually, there's one other one in here that's really tough too that we haven't talked about yet. Yeah. But this one definitely took me the longest.
Yeah.
Just because I almost just want to flip. I wanted to flip a coin and just be like, wherever it go, because I don't
sound like a seasoned GM.
I don't think there's a wrong answer here. I don't.
No, you're right. You're right.
I mean,
I don't think in any of these there's a wrong answer so far, right? Like, I think you could really build around all these guys.
I mean, I do. I think that
maybe.
Yeah, I think we've only disagreed in one spot. I mean, I think the LaMelo one is. I think that's the right answer. Again, I kind of picked on Garland there unintentionally, but
true.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I am surprised. I really.
Yeah, this one was tough. I think there's one other one that was tougher than this for me, but
okay. I wonder if it's even the same one that I think is, because there's only one more that I really think is like as close as the Brown LaVine one. I don't think it's quite as close, but I think it's right there for me. So let's see if it's the same one.
All right. So let's move on to Jaylen Brown's teammate, Jason Tatum. We mentioned him a moment ago as the superstar of that team, right? He's the guy that you brought it up, last year in the playoffs, he looked like the best offensive player across the league, right? The best player in the league. He was carrying a mediocre Celtics squad. Jaylen Brown was hurt, right? Didn't finish the season last year. And, he had Brooklyn on the ropes almost by himself, right? So pitting him against who everybody has been crowning as the future face of the league to this point in his career, Luka Doncic, who has finally started to take his conditioning seriously, as Mark Cuban was so eager to point out. Who you got here, man? Because Luka's a guy that can get a triple-double any night. He's got the ball in his hand all the time. But, man, Jason Tatum is the fucking purity when it comes to scoring.
Yeah, no, and I like Tatum, and I think in another dimension where he doesn't play with Jaylen Brown, who's almost as capable of a scorer as him if you look at the numbers.
Right.
Unbeknownst to a lot of people, it. But, and I got a guy who I don't know if he watches this show, a buddy of mine from Atlanta. Shout out to Carlos Edwards if you happen to be watching this. I don't know if you are. Big basketball dude. Probably one of my favorite people to talk basketball with on all of social media platforms. Just intelligent dude when it comes to the game. But he's a big Jason Tatum guy. And we actually talked about this like 2 years ago. And I said Luka without not even close. And I still say Luka. I do. I do think it's closer, however. That playoff series against the Nets for me last year, what you were just referring to, really kind of did it for me. And I realized that Tatum probably wasn't the best player out there with, like KD on the court and stuff, but he looked like the best player in a lot of respects because he had to do more. And he was up to the challenge. He made big shots. I have the utmost respect for the guy. I think he's, a 24-year-old that we've handed the keys to. Also, if you're listening, anybody from the Celtics, which I know you probably are, you watch this show religiously, do not break up Brown and Tatum. Please do not. Find a way to fit a big in there to make this work and some shooters. Do not break those guys up, because I don't know if you realize what you have in that, but
it's special.
Yeah, but enough about Brown and Tatum. It's Luka. Luka's the guy. I mean,
yeah,
fuck, man.
Yeah, this one's a little unfair to Tatum, because Luka's just, as you said, that guy, right? He is that guy. So I'm with you on Luka for basically the same reason. The dude can fill up every stat, and if he ever takes defense seriously, like, he's just going to be an unreal. Like, legitimately, the LeBron hype with him would be for real, because early in LeBron's career, he played good defense. Now he plays Olay defense, but he's also 38.
Well, I mean, you got two of them on that team, because there was a point in his career where I thought Westbrook was a really good defender too.
Yep.
He has to play defense.
He plays a lot of Olay defense now too. But to your point, right? Celtics GMs and in front office, if you're listening, fucking keep them guys. I was worried 2 years ago that they were going to move.
I was worried
Brown.
This year.
True, but I thought they were going to move Brown in favor of Kyrie, honestly.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they didn't. I just hope that they don't make that mistake here on the back end and move and break them up, because those two together are awesome. Get a couple of shooters. Get a guy inside that can enforce the fucking rim, because they don't have that, right? Horford's not that guy anymore.
Right.
He's a fine complementary piece, but if you're relying on him as your safety net, you're in trouble. So, and that's not to say, like, they're the best defense in the league by a long stretch since the 1st of January. Add a guy to the middle of that can rebound the ball and protect the rim. I love the way you put that. Keep these guys together. Don't break them up.
Well, 6 years ago when I know this, we were talking about Tatum here, but 6 years ago when Brown was coming out of Cal, I don't even remember who the first pick was that year, but
was that the 16 draft?
I remember that was the Buddy Hield year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, I'm on record literally, because I had a podcast then too, and I was flaming everybody who didn't take Buddy Hield. Like, the fuck are you guys doing? You're messing up. You're doing the opposite of the Evan Turner here, is what I thought was going on. Like, and fuck, was I wrong? Like, and the Celtics were the biggest on my list of refs. I was like, Jaylen Brown, are you fucking kidding me? The dude, the athlete that does nothing else but be athletic. And it's funny because I know that I got this dude buddy of mine, Ben Parker. Shout out to Ben. He's from Utah. He was out in Cal, and he last I knew he writes for Cal for the paper, but like, he was real big on Jaylen Brown. And I think I remember telling him one time, like, you're kind of crazy, I think. And so, like, Ben, if you're watching, you're not crazy. Also, you know what? He was a guy who was really big on Zach LaVine coming out. Oh, really? Yeah. Nice. So he's, there's a reason he used to go by the moniker. He went by the moniker of the NBA guru at one point.
Nice.
Young buck. He's a good dude. But, nice. Yeah, that Jaylen Brown, man, just a fucking.
That was the Ben Simmons draft.
Oh, it was the Ben Simmons
draft.
Yes,
it was.
Yes. So you know what I did is I flamed everybody besides the Sixers. That's what I did. Yep. Yeah. Glad I was right. I once wanted Thomas Robinson too. So
who drafted Buddy Hield though? You had to know he was doomed from the start.
Yeah. Yeah. Now
they never do anything right.
Now he's just a guy that makes like $20 million a year, and you can't even trade for him. Yeah,
he's the fucking Jermaine O'Neal of 2022.
He's one of those ones, and I try not to let it happen to me, but he just his college campaign was just so.
Oh my god, he was a fucking nightmare in college.
He just murdered people, man.
Yeah.
Like.
Sure.
And with the way the NBA was trending and the things he was doing, I'm like, I was the fool who was sitting here going like, yeah, it's a 6'6" Steph Curry, bro.
He was Trae Young before Trae Young.
But not.
But not.
But not. I said this. I wrote the same shit with Trae Young. Like when people would bash Trae Young because they had the early exit and all that.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, Trae Young's fucked." I'm like, "Nah, Trae Young's fine." I got that one right.
Yeah,
I feel good about that.
You got that one right.
He's got terrible hair, but
terrible.
Oh, awful. Looks like this shit is spray painted on there. Like if you took one of the dandelions after it becomes like the white and you just spray painted it, yeah, that's his hair. He's fucked, man.
Oh man. All right, he's had thinning hair since birth. All right, let's move on. We've got a real matchup here because we've got some veterans, we've got superstars, right? These are recognizable household names. These are guys that have made names for themselves in the playoffs when it matters. Devin Booker and Donovan Spider Mitchell. Who you got here?
So this was the one.
This was the one.
Full disclosure for me that okay. So
this was
we're on the same page. So this is one that I went back and forth on a couple times today because I think they're the same age. They're 25. So that's another thing too. Is I feel like they feel older than 25 because they've been having success for so long. Donovan Mitchell's had super success pretty much since year one. However, the one thing I think I would say that negatively impacts Mitchell is I don't know if he's gotten I don't know if he's improved enough because I feel like from where he started, he should be a top 5 player in the NBA right now. Like it was almost just like he was already kind of close to a ceiling, which is a very high ceiling. As where Booker, I think, has improved more since he came into the league from where he started to where he is now, which is why I think I picked Booker. Also, he's a bit better of a shooter. I'm really nitpicking here. And yeah, I'm going with Booker mostly because of I feel like he's grown more in his time in the league, which also means he started worse than Mitchell. So I'm acknowledging that, but I just feel like with that trend upwards, that means hopefully there's room for more growth, in the next 5 years. And he's a bit better of a shooter, and we're in a shooters league. However, this one was the hardest one for me.
Yeah, for sure. This was the most difficult. I like the way you made that comparison, right? And it rings to me of this past year's NFL draft. A guy like Mac Jones, who's likely the most NFL ready, but is near his ceiling, right? You kind of get what you get with him, and you know what you get, versus a guy like a Justin Fields, right, who has this immense potential, right? So I equate Booker more closely with like Fields, and Donovan Mitchell, although he was drafted lower, is a guy that came into the league and lit it on fire immediately. And he's been a superstar in this league before people would acknowledge that he was a superstar in this league.
Right.
And Booker, on the other hand, came in with a lot of hype out of Kentucky and a lot of expectations and didn't make good on those because he went to a bad franchise, right? Let's be honest. Went to a bad franchise. Chris Paul has come in and taught him how to be a professional, how to improve his game, work toward it, and start to refine his craft. And we see some of that dog out of Devin Booker that we didn't see in the early years, right? His first 2 years in the league. I don't think we saw the dog that we see now out of Devin Booker. So I'm going with Booker, and I have another deciding factor that I took into consideration, and we talk about it a lot. The best ability is availability. And we've seen Donovan Mitchell get nicked up, and it's not his fault because it's a lot of times he steps on a foot or the knee or the ankle, the legs and whatnot. And like, if I'm building a cornerstone guy and I know, right, these are known commodities. I know that Devin Booker doesn't miss time, and I know that Donovan Mitchell has missed time. That is a factor, right? So I'm going with Book for what you mentioned. I don't want to just reiterate it, but he does seem to have a higher ceiling still from where he is right now. Still room for growth, but also he's on the court always. And he never misses minutes in games either. Like he's a 46, 47 minute a game guy in the playoffs, especially. So
yeah, I didn't mention minutes, and it was in my notes here, but I have too many of them. Yeah, no, I mean Booker in the regular season plays 34 and a half minutes a game. Yeah. And that's with his rookie season only being about 27 and a half a game. But what I was speaking to, my first thing was Booker is improved between his first season and this season by like 12 points a game. Yeah. As were Mitchell's. And again, this isn't a knock on Mitchell because they're averaging about the same points per game. Mitchell's
isn't been there longer.
It's in 1 year. Booker's been there 1 year, or Booker's been in the league 1 year longer. But
I just mean Mitchell's been there.
Mitchell's never averaged under 20.
Right.
So he's like a 20, 23, 24, 26, 26, as where Booker started off like 13 a game. And people are going to be like, oh, he didn't play a lot in his rookie year. Well, he played almost 28 minutes a game. So, Mitchell has played over 30 minutes since he came into the league, but like just that increase. I don't know. Again, this one was so difficult. In many regards, they're the same guy with different skill sets. Like and they're two of the guys that I almost feel like if you swapped them on teams, I don't even know what the difference would be. Like it'd be a different game while you're watching it, but would it translate into different things? I don't even know. I mean, assuming Mitchell's healthy.
For sure. All right. Let's move on to our last one here. We've got a pretty good matchup here too, right? Same position, and Showtime for different reasons, right? So we've got Trae Young, who can shoot the ball from everywhere in the gym, makes the no look and between the legs passes all the time, setting his guys up, and just he's that shooter. He's that Steph Curry mold, right? He's the young kid that saw Steph Curry play and said, I want to do that, right? Versus Ja Morant, who can score at that level, but he'll also jump the fuck over you.
Who the fuck did he watch play?
Fuck Dominique Wilkins.
Dominique Wilkins and like Russell Westbrook mixed with like
dude, he's an anomaly.
He's a kangaroo is what he is.
Yes. I'm pretty sure that dude has left teeth marks on the I-beams in the rafters.
Yeah, he's
a nutcase. So are you taking a guy who's a shooter, or are you going to take a guy who can yam on everybody in the building?
The two greatest shows on earth right now in terms of young guys in the NBA, in my humblest of opinions, like these are the two must-see players. If you're going to tune into an NBA, if you need a reason to tune into an NBA game, it's Trae Young and it's Ja Morant, and it's for completely different reasons because Trae Young will show you what the league is now as far as shooting the ball. They call him Ice Trae. He smiled and he bowed in Madison Square Garden as he put a dagger in the Knicks, okay? And then you have Ja Morant, who's like just a freak phenom of an athlete. Like, we haven't seen a small athlete in this league since prime Russell Westbrook. And I think that Ja Morant's a little bit better of an athlete than Russell Westbrook. Guys jumping up there, getting the two-hand block off the glass. He can shoot the ball a little bit. He's just completely unselfish. His young teammates, the craziest thing to me, and we talked about this a little bit on Friday, where I said I didn't believe in the Grizzlies in the playoffs, as well as I didn't believe in the Bulls because they're young teams. There was a part where I said, I believed in the Bulls a little more because at least they have DeMar DeRozan, the vet, steering the ship of young players, as where Ja Morant is steering the ship of young players, and he's a young player himself. However, I think he handles it real well. I think the players buy into what he's doing. But the greatest fucking shows on hardwood as far as young – I mean, we still have Steph Curry. We still have Giannis. We still have LeBron James is still putting on shows. We've got Joel Embiid, we've got Harden, we've got KD, we've got guys. If you want to watch young players, besides like Luka and Tatum, who are going to be headlining the league in 5 years, look no further. Like this might be the matchup because you got one in the East, one in the West, right? Yeah. These might very well be your all-star captains in a few years. So in very different styles, but both very successful. Now, the Hawks aren't having as much success this year. We saw them do it last year. They went in. They beat the Knicks in New York. It was awesome.
He was lights
the bow, didn't give a shit,
yeah.
Which means a lot to me. To me, that's huge. And now Morant having his team on board this year. I've spoken enough about, basically juggling the balls of these two guys. I'm going to go Trae Young. I am. Trae's my guy. Ja's becoming my guy too. Like this was another one I didn't really want to pick on because I really like both players a lot personally. But I do think that Trae's a little bit better of a passer than Ja, and he's a much better shooter while Ja's the better athlete. I don't think either of them really play much defense, so I'm not really worried about factoring that in. So I just for today's game, I think the shooting, the passing, I'm going to give the slight edge to my boy Trae, Ice Trae Young. But Ja Morant, we love you anyways. Raul right now, his head is fucking exploding.
He's exploded. Well, we've finally gotten to the second time when we're going to differ, right?
Okay, I like it. I'm glad.
We've been pretty much in lockstep with one exception, and even that was really splitting hairs, right? Hero versus Ant was splitting hairs, and I pulled the okie doke on you, right?
You did,
I'm not pulling the okie doke on you with this.
You cheated. I still don't even think that. I don't like that.
I'm not pulling the okie doke on you with this one, though, right? It's, to me, it's what you said, right? Ja Morant is a leader. He's the best player amongst best players, and he's got a young core around him, and he has said, hop on, young bucks, we're going somewhere, right? And Trae's great. I hate when we do these things because it always feels like if I praise one guy, I'm shitting on another, right? And we talk about that all the time.
People are messaging you like,
right?
Why do you hate Trae?
Why do you hate Trae? He's fucking awesome. Like, I love watching Trae because I love the shimmy. I love the smile in the garden. I love what he did to the Knicks, although I had picked the Knicks to win that series.
I picked them too.
Yeah, but I'm with Ja here because I think he's in a position where he has to be the guy, and he is the fucking guy. So if I'm building a franchise, that's the guy I want, right? I want the guy that I know I can put pieces around him that may not necessarily look the part, the savvy vets, the old guys that are proven commodities, and he's going to be able to pull up the bootstraps, dunk on a bunch of people, but also get everybody involved and really elevate a team to that level. And that's what I'm looking for in my cornerstone. I'm going with Ja. It's a decent margin, but Trae's great, man. Like this is picking, like, do I want a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, right? They're both so exciting to watch.
I love and I hate this comparison. And I love it because, we have two guys of relatively the same age who play the same position but play it very differently. They're in different conferences, but they have a little bit of a similar vibe when it comes to how they came into the league, because you have Ja, who obviously came in on the heels of the Zion Williams. That's what it was. And everybody knew Ja Morant was going to be a good player. And I think most people thought Ja Morant was going to be the second, maybe even the first, definitely the third, if not the first or second, best player in that draft. And I think you can say the same thing about Trae Young. Trae Young was even traded for Luka. Right? That's got to be some sort of fucking chemical warfare, right, going on there, or some mental warfare. Yeah. Like, so I think these two have both done an excellent job because one guy came in behind the guy who is the fucking truth, and the other guy came in behind the guy who we're still waiting on to be the fucking truth.
Be the truth,
right? Yeah. And you know, and Zion had the most hype of any player, I would say, since Wiggins, but probably since LeBron. And Luka, had he played in the States, would have had that same hype. However, I do think he had a ton of hype, coming in. And, obviously John, Trae Morant had their own hype, but neither of them were the A player. They were both the B guys coming into this league. And they've both proven to be the, A players, not maybe the A player. Trae's not better than Luka, but he is. I mean, fuck. Trae Young and Zion, where are they? Like, are they top 5 point guards?
Point guards?
Yeah. Are they top 5 point guards? The both of them? One of them?
I think so. I think both. I'd be hard pressed. If you put me on the spot right now, I'd be hard pressed to name 3 that I'm taking over them.
Right.
I'm sorry, to name 4 that I'm taking over them.
I mean, you
kick one of them out of the top 5.
Right.
I'd be hard pressed.
I mean, you're taking Curry, right?
Yep.
You're taking Lillard. Depending on who you are, you might take Kyrie. I'm personally, I'll put it on record right now, I'm taking both of them over Kyrie Irving.
Oh yeah. I agree with you 100% on that. I want these two over
fucking
Kyrie.
Most. Send the hate my way. Like, even if he were vaccinated, I'm taking the two of them. That's just where I am with Kyrie. Like, I think that Kyrie for me stalled out. But yeah, I'm probably missing somebody here in my stupor. But like,
I mean, you obviously have to throw CP3 into the conversation.
Sure,
but he still does for a team. But he's not what these guys bring to the table. He's a glue guy, right? He brings a team together. So.
And I'm not calling Luka a 1 either. So
he's a point forward like LeBron. He's a point forward like LeBron.
Right. And I'm a Harden's not a 1. I mean, nope. I'm not. It's just I'm not going to classify him there. So, yeah, we agreed way too fucking much tonight. Raul would have been so disappointed. Raul
would have been mad as fuck. He loves the debate.
Oh, dude,
he loves us going head to head.
Oh,
look. I was surprised. Honestly, I was surprised at a few of these.
Well, I thought you would be on the Barrett train, maybe.
See, I had to check myself on that. Because I was.
I wouldn't have been mad with you if you were. Like, I think it's plausible. I don't think with
the argument for Barrett is he handles the ball. That's the argument for Barrett against Desmond.
Right. I think there's only 2 of these that you're wrong if you say, and I think that would have been Garland,
LaMelo,
and Tatum.
Yeah.
Like those are the only 2 that I would be like, you're wrong, but I mean, so.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get to most important part of the episode here, and we are going to swing into our salute to service. Look, I'm gonna pass real quick here a little bit more onto what the fuck is going on in Europe, right? We talked a lot about it on Friday, but the fact that that fight is still going on and the way they are still repelling what is supposed to be one of the premier military forces in the world is just a testament to the fortitude, the fight, and the absolute fucking charisma of a president who was a reality TV star who has absolutely handled this situation with the utmost expertise and really pushed back in the right way against this cocksucker in Moscow, because Putin is like the alpha male, right? He prides himself on being the alpha male. Guess who's hiding behind, oh, I'm going to put nukes out there and I'm going to show and I'm going to threaten this and I'm going to threaten that. Not the motherfucker in Kiev who's out there saying, come get some, who's refusing an escort out of the city from the U.S. troops, right? The U.S. offered an escort out. He said, nope, I need ammunition, not a ride, right? That's not that BDE. Ride, right. That's that BDE. Every Ukrainian, like, it's just nuts, these reports that just keep coming out. There's a library. The library, there's a major library in one of the biggest cities. Their website says, I'm sorry, our doors are closed. We'll get back to you after we vanquish the invaders. A library, bro. So I have to salute again what the fuck is going on over there, because they are absolutely getting the teeth of a meat grinder and they are just turning them back. So to you over there in Ukraine, we salute you. Now, on to,
real quick though, can we also salute like some of the small players? I want to salute like Switzerland for, like saying, hey, we're no longer neutral.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Russia.
Yeah.
Kazakhstan, who's one of Russia's biggest allies, saying, hey, we're not giving you troops.
Sweden.
Sweden, yeah.
Sweden, who's notoriously neutral, like
right.
Switzerland.
Elon Musk, sending the Starlink and shit. Yep. Like, I mean, it just this is almost one of those moments where it's like people always say, well, if we, the U.S., the big brother with the military power, we don't step in, who's going to? And we're kind of seeing it.
We're seeing it.
We're seeing a small country who borders a juggernaut.
Yeah.
Fight the fuck back.
Yep.
And say, we're not going quietly into the night.
Nope.
You want to come into our major cities, we're going to have fucking guns out of every window. And then you have these other countries.
Haven't begun dying.
Right.
You haven't begun dying.
Take these seeds so that you grow flowers when you
die on Ukrainian soil.
And now we finally have some of these other countries for once taking that's all it takes. Instead of the U.S. jumping in and assuming 100% of the responsibility, we're seeing a lot of these other countries taking a small bit. Yep. And it's adding up. And if Putin had hair, he'd be pulling that shit the fuck out.
Yep. Because
he probably expected this shit to be over in a few days. And here we are. They've still taken no major cities.
No major cities.
Pornhub's like, bro, if you want to jack off, you're going to do it to the Ukrainian flag. Kids, get some.
All Russian IPs.
Right. Come on. Yeah, I see some chicks on fucking Snap or on TikTok. We're like, yo, my OnlyFans ain't open in Russia.
Yeah,
you're not getting yams.
Oh,
if you, I mean,
awesome,
fuck, man.
The response has been awesome.
Better go jerk off to the grass.
All right, but we are going to shout out a fallen U.S. troop tonight. I just wanted to reiterate our support and our absolute salute to what the fuck is going on in Ukraine, because that is a nightmare scenario, and they are responding in fucking kind. And to just give it to the alpha, or he sees himself as the alpha.
That dude is a beta.
Yeah, he's a fucking omega. Anyway, tonight's episode, in addition to the fight going on in Ukraine, this episode goes out to Specialist Jackson Johnson, who died March 7th, 2019. serving during Operation Spartan's Shield. Jackson Johnson was 20 years old from Hillsborough, Missouri. His vehicle collided with a civilian commercial truck in Kuwait. They were doing some transport exercises. They were deployed to Kuwait in support of the Spartan Shield operation. He was awarded the Meritorious Service Medal, National Defense Service Medal, and Army Service Ribbon. Jackson Johnson, specialist. Jackson Johnson, we have the watch. All right. I'm just going to bring this up real quick before we transition into our last bit, man. Russian warship, go fuck yourself.
Right, and you know, we talked about this earlier. I had heard something actually yesterday too, but I wasn't sure how true it was. That they're now saying that, you know, the Snake Island guys that told them go fuck yourself weren't necessarily killed but captured, which is, you know, great.
Might get them back.
You know, I think in a sense, though, that to me, more than anything, it shows that the Russian dudes in the warship, because there's a lot of shit coming out now, too. A lot of these Russian soldiers don't actually want to fucking be there. They thought they were doing an exercise. Whether that's true or not, we'll see. But, you know,
they were told it was peacekeeping and shit like that.
But the thing is rules of war over there means if you don't do what you're told,
you get executed.
Right. So, you know, I don't want to say all of them because some of those homicidal freaks are running people over in fucking civilian vehicles with tanks, but you know, maybe some of them. I saw a video too of a dude rolling up on like a Russian tank, a Ukrainian dude, and he was like, "You guys need gas?"
Yeah.
And they're like, har laughing. You know, you can't park there. And you know, listen, I think with
drive-by Molotov cocktail too is fun.
With any war, like there's probably some dudes that don't want to fucking be there, man. I mean. You're talking 19, 20-year-olds. When I was 19, I didn't want to be somewhere else fucking trying to shoot people up. Like, I was trying to get some chicks, man. So,
yeah,
you know, fucking sure. Putin, dude. Crusty motherfucker, man. This fucking guy, dude. This fucking guy.
All right. So, we've got a couple of new segments we're going to introduce tonight. In addition to this guy or that guy, that's not going to be a regular one, but these two are going to be regular ones. And in the spirit of, for those of you who've watched the Backyard Blitz, we have Thanks Haskins and we have Damn K to salute a negative and a positive. We've adapted that to the hoop scenario. So we're going to start out with, and so I took that personally. Fittingly, the Jordan, and so I took that personally. So I'm going to pass it your way. What do you want to highlight tonight?
Oh man, so I was going to touch base with you because we had the short week really with a couple days, and I hope we don't like step. I grabbed two. I hope you did the same. So mine actually happened last night. There was a point in the Hornets game. You had Kelly Olynyk, right? He gets the rock, and it's overtime. He beats the Hornets. I think it was 116 to 117 on this crazy little fadeaway turnaround. Like he was, you know what? It's almost like it wasn't a three, but it kind of reminded me with the drama of the Kawhi Leonard shot against the Sixers in the playoffs 2 years ago, or was it last year? It was
2 years.
2 years ago. 2 years ago. Yeah, it was when he was with Toronto. Like the and it's Kelly fucking Olynyk, man. The guy called Caveman. So he fucking beats the Hornets. The Pistons win. He just an inbound with it, like he's well guarded. You know, dude's like 6'10", gets this little turnaround from 15. Pierre pops it off, kind of fading away with the glass to the side of him. Like he took that shit personally.
Yo, it just dawned on me. That's 3 years ago. We are getting fucking old, man. 2 years ago was bubble basketball.
Oh, it was bubble basketball, so it was
Dude.
3 years ago.
We're getting old fast.
That was Kawhi's laugh here. Yo, time just listen.
Yeah, I'm a fun guy.
The time I had between 10 years old and 18 years old seems like it was like 50 fucking years.
Right.
And the time I had between like
21 and
24
38
and 38 is 10 seconds.
Absurd.
I promise you.
Man.
I used to work with a dude who used to say, and mind you, I was like 22 at the time. He used to say 32 was right around the corner. He would always say that. Always say that shit. And I was like, you're fucking
right.
goofy. Because he was 32. He was 10 years older than me. 32 is right around the corner. He would always say that shit. And I was like, you're fucking goofy. Bro, I'm 38 now.
Yeah.
He was saying that shit to me last week. last week, bro.
Oh,
fucking
man.
16 years ago.
So my little highlight here, I'm going to go back to something we talked about at the very beginning of this show. Harden, in his first 2 games in Philly, has shown his entire ass, right? And I'm going to equate it to T-Mac. I'm sure he doesn't give a fuck what T-Mac said, but T-Mac lit into him, and he took that shit personally and had 26, 12, and 8, and then followed that up with a fucking triple-double. So Harden taking shit personally and putting it to the T-Wolves and the Knicks. All right, let's transition to our final segment. Ball. As Sheed would always say, the ball don't lie. What you got for me, buddy?
Well, what I have is a bit depressing. So I don't know how many of you live in New York State. New York has recently really eased up on the mask mandates. As of today, actually, in many places, even unvaccinated personnel aren't required to wear a mask anymore. As of Wednesday, which is the day after tomorrow, kids in school don't have to wear masks anymore. It's been a good long time for that. However, you know who still has to wear a mask? Kyrie Irving. So the way that goes is there is a different set of circumstances for. I'm trying to remember how they put this. I should have probably had a browser up, but there's a different set of circumstances for. So it's going to be lifted, right?
Yeah.
But he still can't play home games because the way the labor agreements and vaccination requirements are in indoor places is different for like a private enterprise. So, right. Meaning, so they say,
I hadn't heard that because everybody was talking that Kyrie wasn't going to have to sit. They were going to get 50%. We even talked about it. They were going to get 50% of Kyrie back.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me why don't you go with yours? And then by the time you have it up, I'll have the spiel.
Yeah, for sure. My ball don't lie is we're gonna go to Sacto, and we're gonna
stay there.
Yeah, I mean we probably could just stay there forever. I'm gonna go there, and I promise I won't dwell there like I did with Thanks Haskins for such a long time in Washington. But I'm looking at Tyrese Halliburton and his game log since leaving Sacramento. And I'm looking at the performance of the Sacramento Kings since making the bonehead trade they made. And I'm looking at 2 things that are on completely different paths. I'm looking at Halliburton, who is playing as we expected him to play, averaging over 20 a game and, just being that guy. And Sacto, who continues to just be the laughing stock of the fucking NBA. The ball don't lie, man.
Ball don't lie. All right. So, back to the Kyrie Irving thing. You were done, right?
Yep.
All right. So the Kyrie Irving thing, it says New York City Mayor Eric Adams announced on Sunday that barring any surprises, he plans to lift the city's public sector vaccine mandate. So that's the key words right there, the public sector, on March 7th. So it's a week away. That will not, however, clear the way for Brooklyn Nets star Kyrie Irving to play home games at Barclays Center. Additionally, New York City's numbers continue to go down day after day. So as long as COVID indicators show a low-level risk, blah, 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 blah. That was the statement that the Brooklyn Nets, Kyrie Irving, and much of the NBA world have been waiting for, or so everyone thought.
However,
as it turns out, New York City also has a separate private sector vaccine mandate, which states employers may not allow any unvaccinated employees to report to their physical workplace unless they have requested and received an accommodation. So, it sounds like Kyrie.
Are the Nets going to make that accommodation?
I don't know. I mean, so this
It'd be in their best interest,
right? I mean, this was Jack Maloney, so like I don't know. I mean that's a good source.
Damn.
I mean, listen. I hope, for the sake of the Nets and for what's probably fair, that yes, he gets to go. However, I do think there's a lesson in all of this. Like, I mean, come on, Kyrie. Fuck. Like, I feel like I've been saying for like 6 years, like, come on, Kyrie.
Come on, Kyrie. Like every turn, it's like dinosaurs. It's flat Earth.
Why are we fighting with you, dude? Like,
right.
Every fucking turn about something. It's just, and I don't want to tell anybody what to do, necessarily, but like, here's the thing: coaching like high school basketball kids, sometimes it's like some of these kids are good, but they want to do dumb shit, and it's like I don't want to tell you I don't want to fucking tell you what to do because I lived it and I probably did dumber shit than you. Yeah. Like, because you don't know me. I probably did way dumber shit than you. But like, I don't want to tell you what to do, but at the same time, let's fucking get it together, dude, or don't. You know what I mean? Because if you don't, you won't be here. Yeah. And that's like essentially with Kyrie. Like, do you want to be like? Because you can be you can go to the finals this year.
Yeah,
like, you're not just on some team. You're not going to win 31 games.
That was a championship squad preseason.
It still is.
I don't disagree. But preseason, when he made this fucking silly soapbox decision, that was a championship squad.
Everybody was bitching about the Dak was stacked against everybody else. They made all the moves. They got Blake Griffin. They got fucking Marcus Aldridge. They got KD. They got DJ. Like, they had all these guys at one point. And they're again, I thought we agreed last, on Friday that they're with Simmons. I mean, he's dealing with his own thing right now, but
with Simmons, with KD coming back, and what we assumed was 50% more of Kyrie, they were going to be probably going to be the favorite in the East, or at least in the conversation.
They're in there in the top 3 or 4 teams for sure. Which the way the East shakes down, I mean, like I just and it's going to be one of those things that boils down to like a thing we talked about with Zion the other night. Do you love the game?
Yeah.
Like, do you really love the game? Because we've seen people who don't love the game.
Right.
Andrew Bynum didn't love the game. I mean, we looked at a guy who
immense wasted talent
with Dwight Howard's ailing back thing as he transitioned from Orlando over to the Lakers. We saw Andrew Bynum look like he had a possibility to be the best big man in the league. he didn't love the game. Larry Sanders.
Yep.
From the Bucks, people might remember that guy was a pretty goddamn good player for a few years. Didn't really even like basketball that much. Like it came out. He had some shit too, where like he was a little depressed, but he didn't love the game. And and some people don't love the work.
Yeah.
You can tell. You see guys all the time who are highly skilled. Like Kobe Bryant's a really good example because Kobe Bryant is highly talented, but also really loved the work. Michael Jordan, really talented, but also really loved the work. And you get other guys. T-Mac, my favorite player, really talented, didn't love the work. Didn't
love the game. Didn't want to put the grind in.
I don't even know how much he loved the game. Like I don't want to ever think he didn't love the game, but like if you don't love the grind, do you love the game? I don't know how you can be one or the other. I mean, there's just a lot of guys, and you see it. You see when the guys, Vince Carter is one of the purest examples for me of a guy who I thought would wash out of the NBA as soon as he started hurting his knee. Because his game was so predicated on off of athleticism.
Buddy.
But then he played fucking longer than Moses walked through the desert.
He made a 3-pointer in 4 decades?
This dude was out here. This dude was in the NBA fucking longer than Seinfeld was on television, bro.
Right.
But it was because he worked.
Yeah.
He made himself a different guy.
Yep.
He became a 3-point shooter. He became a threat. Like, some guys do that. McGrady had like 4 or 5 chances after he fucked his shit up. He had the back thing, he had the knee thing, and he had opportunities, but he didn't work. There's the 100-hour theory, like where how many hours you put in per 100 for work, and it's not just for sports. This is for like life. And like it was estimated, McGrady shit was so low when they estimated. There was a really good article. I'd have to find something. We could put it up for people to see. It's one of the better pieces. But some guys just try. Jason Kidd's another one, and I don't even want to say from like injuries, but like remember Jason Kidd came in the league and they called him Asen Kidd because he had no J. And then at one point he was like number 3 on the 3-point made list.
Yeah.
Like after he was retired, he just worked at it. He some guys work, some guys it's probably hard. I think when you're so naturally gifted, like bro, if I were naturally gifted enough to be in the NBA, I wouldn't work at all.
You'd be Brian Scalabrine.
Nah, dude. I'm saying if I bet you Brian Scalabrine worked though. I'm saying if I were a top tier athlete, like if I were as athletic as like Kobe Bryant, I would have never put in a fucking ounce of work. I didn't have to.
Yeah.
Right? Kobe never had to put in that work he did. He could have been 23.
He could have been fine. Right. He could have been fine
for 10 years, no matter what. But he decided to be 28
points to chase the GOAT.
Right. So like that's the difference, I think. Like, dude, if I could score 25 points a game in the NBA, I'm never working. Not once. No, not at all, dude. There's no way. There's no fucking way. I don't even care if my span is 5 years. I don't give a fuck. Like
I scored 25 a game for 5 years. Fuckers.
Yeah. I'm getting paid. I'm doing that. I am not working. Like you fucking catch me at the house,
catch me
man.
Outside.
Not in the gym. This month, like, listen, in some regards, like I feel like some of these guys' lives are dumb. Maybe I'm weird, man, but like, so there's a story. There's a story, and actually, I'm hating on T-Mac. The story's going to talk about T-Mac. There's a story from Kobe where over the summer, for like working out for the FIBAs or whatever, he came into the gym early, like Kobe often does, and McGrady was there already. And Kobe did like psychological warfare on him.
Yeah.
It was like, how long you been here? And, you know, whatever McGrady's answer was, an hour, 2 hours, whatever. He was like, really? You been here that long? I wouldn't be here. Shit like that. Like, because he was like, he was pissed. Like, he showed up and somebody else was already there.
Yeah.
And he was fucking mad. And he fucking, you know, he how do we put that? He took that personally.
He took it personally.
He did not like it. He was like, this motherfucker, who's already pretty good, you know, like he's fucking pretty good. Why is he here before me? What is he doing? Right. He's trying to be Kobe.
Yeah.
Did not like that shit. Which is great, but like at the same time, I'm like, man, how much fucking personal time do you think Kobe Bryant had over his NBA career?
7 or 8 minutes.
No, it's total. Total. Exactly. Holy fuck, man. 7 seconds or less.
7
he
seconds.
He had less personal time than a D'Antoni offense.
D'Antoni offense to take a shot.
Like this fucking dude, man. Like, in many, with all due respect, I almost think Kobe Bryant is kind of a psychopath. Or was kind of.
I think you have to be a little bit of a psychopath to be that competitive.
A little fucking weird,
and
man.
Have that drive.
That's
for sure.
That's
Michael Jordan was probably a bit of a psychopath.
Sure. And listen, and here's the thing: the opposite thing of what I say now, like when we judge dudes now on everything we see about them, we don't get Jordan in the same light a lot of times.
Yeah.
Because we didn't see everything he did. But like, yeah, I think it would be the same thing. Like we would see some weird shit about Jordan. Like we'd be like, like, bro, this motherfucker's a dickhead.
Yeah.
Like, listen, and Jordan is whatever Jordan is, but I think Jordan is kind of a shabby human being.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he probably still is. I mean,
probably.
Like, as we're like,
he's out there cupping Mary J. Blige's ass. You know that.
She didn't even care, dude.
No, that's MJ.
Dude. Yeah. Dude.
Shit. All right. Let's get to some closing remarks here.
Right.
We've waxed a bit. You get to see a little bit of kind of the back and forth, the insider knowledge here with Mode and myself. But what are your closing thoughts, buddy?
Yo, my closing thoughts. We talked about this after we shut down last week. I wanted to bring it up in the show, and we didn't. I'm not 100% sure, and I meant to pull this up, and I didn't do it. But gambling, sportsbook style, throughout the United States. I live in New York. New York came live like week 16 of the NFL season, so just 2.5 months ago, roughly. I have noticed, and I'm curious how many other people have noticed from different states or whatever. I know Raul said in Texas they're still pretty handcuffed, sort of like they are when they get a half an inch of ice on the ground. But I've noticed people who aren't basketball fans, and in a lot of times people who aren't even sports fans, in on it. I actually had a conversation with like a longtime friend of mine earlier. I've known him for since I'm like 11. Doesn't really care about sports at all, but he's a bit of a gambler. He likes the poker. And we're fucking yapping Facebook basketball. He's asking me about the Magic game, and I'm like, I don't really want to give you advice on the Magic game because I'm a Magic fan.
Yeah.
And he's telling me he had picked Indy, but he saw Markelle Fultz was coming back tonight, and he didn't know what that meant. And I was like, I don't know what that means either because I haven't seen Markelle Fultz in a fucking year.
Yeah.
However, last I looked, the Magic were fucking tearing that ass up. Not that I know if Fultz was doing anything, but. That's my closing regard. I think listen, man. If we want to, if we want to let people vote for who they put in office, we want to let people smoke cigarettes. We want to let people chew tobacco, drink booze. A lot of states smoke weed. Like, let's listen, man. If you earn money, you can fucking spend money. Let's gamble. I mean, do the shit responsibly. I would tell you the same thing if you were going to drink some fucking Miller Lights. But, like, if you want to smoke a cigarette, don't smoke 9 packs a day.
Yeah.
Don't bet $1,000.
Don't gamble away the mortgage.
Yeah, don't bet $1,000 on the Kings, bud. But, like, bet responsibly. Bet responsibly, but let us do what we want to do, man.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good note to end it on, because I like that sports gambling's coming around. It's starting to bring a lot of intrigue to some sports that people probably didn't pay attention to before. So on that note, hit us up in the chat. We haven't had a lot of comments this week. We had some good ones last week, but join in. It's good interaction. Give us your thoughts on our topics. We're not here to just talk at you. We're here to talk with you. For Andy, I'm Gary. This has been Backyard Buckets. We look forward to seeing you next week. We are out.